Hello, my name's Pat Fry. I gather you make banners bearing inspirational slogans. You do? Excellent. The thing is, morale is a little low here at McLaren right now, and I'm looking for a banner for our factory. Is that something that you could help with? Wonderful. You've got the job. Oh, the slogan? Yes. I'd like it to say, at least we're not Williams.
Hello, pod listeners. We are the podcasters that make up the team of Gareth Jones on Speed. He's called Zog and he cannot find his headphones.
Hello.
He's called Richard. Have you got your headphones on, Richard?
What? Yeah, hi.
I'm Gareth, and welcome to episode 350 of Gareth Jones on Speed. Small applause. Thank you for staying with us and making it possible for us to make 350 plus episodes of On Speed, if you include the video episodes and the episodes which are also available as enhanced podcasts, so they were like double episodes, and the trailer. So this is probably something like episode 405 or 7 or something like that in real terms, as of course is a real thing.
Episode somewhere in the region 350 to 410.
Yeah,
how about
somewhere. That'll do us.
I've got a little game for you. I've just thought of this.
Yeah, go
Come on.
To start this episode.
Yeah.
You're sounding very enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, sorry.
You're really selling it.
Okay, hi, game show host.
From the 80s. I was thinking of cars that have 350 in their name. Because I've thought of 3, I think.
A Mercedes SL.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Because I actually thought there's a C350, I think.
Yeah. I also thought of the Mitsubishi 3500 GT. It's got an extra 0 in it.
Yeah, that was also 3000.
Yeah.
Oh, was it the 3000, not 3500? Yeah. Oh, in that case,
You could have the Rover
3500. Yeah.
I think that's cheating. It's got to be 350.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on, Zog.
There isn't a Tesla variant that's a 350D. No, it's a 100.
no,
it's
still-
100D. Yeah. 350.
German.
No, I've got a Japanese one in mind.
Oh, 350. Oh, was it a
not a Toyota,
Suzuki? No, it wasn't.
All right, I've got an American one in mind.
Okay, 350.
And
Cadillac?
Not that I can think of.
It was something like a 475 with a Hearst on the floor, so it's going to be an Oldsmobile, or it's going to be a Pontiac GTO 350 or something, no? No? Muscle car, that period?
No, it's current.
a truck.
That was unusual, that sound. I
It was,
like
wasn't
that.
it? It's
Yeah.
funny, yes. I don't know what happened there. No, recent, but also older.
Dodge Ram 350 truck.
No, because there was thousands. It's a pony car, but you could argue it's a muscle car.
Was it a special variant of the Mustang built by Carroll Shelby called the 350?
Yeah,
Yeah.
GT350.
There you go.
Of course. Yes.
You could have also had the Nissan 350Z
Oh, of course.
and the TVR.
Yes.
Hang on, I'm having a second thought. Was that the 350? Maybe it wasn't. What am I talking about? What was
The
that one?
TVR 3000M.
No,
4000M,
what was that one
420.
just before they died? There was a T. Was it a 350?
Don't remember.
Oh, I might be imagining that now. I think it was.
Can't remember.
So can we list some cars with 3.5 litre engines then? Does that get the Rover
Rover's the
3500?
first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And
Most TVRs. Early Range Rovers.
Quite a lot of Range Rovers.
Yeah.
And Discoveries and all that.
Ford never did a 3.5. They did 3.4s in
No, he did.
America?
3.5.
3.6?
3.5 EcoBoost, I think, and V6.
No.
The new one with the current.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
In America?
Turbocharged, yeah, V6
Yeah.
EcoBoost is because they're phasing out V8s.
Ferrari 355.
Oh.
Actually, yeah, the
3.5 litre V8.
Yeah.
the Lamborghini 350. I
Yes.
think, GT.
Oh, good.
That's quite a few.
Yeah.
We could go on, but
we
let's-
won't.
Let's probably.
We'll just stop that there. So happy birthday, us. Thank you very much
Yeah,
indeed.
if you've thought of a 350 car, please don't write in.
On the subject of celebrations, next year we'll be 15 years on Speed. Episode 400 probably won't come out until the year after if we're still podcasting, but next year we'll be 15 years on Speed. I'm considering we should do it live again. I think we should. Just a thought. If you
Yeah,
think we
maybe,
should, let us
maybe.
know.
We'll see.
Right, 4 minutes in, let's talk about cars. Zog and I, you may have heard, went on the Kona rally recently, and I remember a moment where I was describing the car that we were driving, the Kona, to Zog, as an electric SUV, and I said, "This is an SUV," and you considered long and hard for a moment whether it was actually an SUV or just a tall hatchback.
And then we agreed that it was basically both. It's a crossover. It's one of these,
Or a cross under.
it's sort of
Cross around.
mini SUV family car kind of crossover vehicles. And we were talking about this, and it's interesting that there's a bit of a coming together at the moment, I think, between manufacturers and consumer tastes and the electric car market, in that this kind of platform, like a mini SUV, it seems to be an increasingly popular platform for manufacturers to develop electric cars on. And that's a happy coincidence for them, because it seems to be a very popular sector with consumers right now, and it's not getting any less popular. Unlike sports cars or hatchbacks, you've got a much better platform, it seems to me, to build your electric drivetrain, because you've basically got more space and a slightly bigger vehicle to carry the weight of the batteries and
Yeah,
the way
you can perch people on top of the batteries, and then they're sitting up high, which seems to be what they want at the moment. So, it works out fine. In a way, it's a bit dumb, because really you want an electric car to be as aerodynamic as possible and to have as low a frontal area as possible for efficiency.
Yeah.
I mean, you do for
That's
all
true of any
cars,
vehicle.
really.
I don't think electric vehicles are, they're not special in that sense.
No. Yeah, I sort of drive various different cars for my job, and I have never pulled up in a petrol or a diesel car. The first thing someone said is, "Yeah, but what's the range?" It's just weird. That'd be a weird question. With every electric car that I've ever shown off to people, they go, "Yeah, but what's the range?" And you just go, "Oh, well, I mean, how often do you need to drive 300 miles in a day? If you do, what are you up to?"
Well, here's an interesting thing actually about range. Because we decided we were going to be talking about electric cars, I did a quick check on the electric car market in China and what the most popular vehicles. Obviously, China is the biggest market at the moment for electric vehicles. What are the most popular electric vehicles in China?
Is it a BYD?
It's a BAIC.
Beijing Automotive
EC
series.
Yeah, which I had not heard of before.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that vehicle, in its largest capacity version, not the smaller capacity version, has a range of 162 kilometres.
The largest?
Really?
Yeah. Now, that is a very small range.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that would have a great many people in the British or a lot of the European or the American car market just throwing their hands up in the air going, "Oh, that's hopeless," if you're thinking about range anxiety. But the thing is that this question of range is clearly not stopping that car being the best-selling electric vehicle in China.
Great fact, so.
That's intriguing.
How are they making
I think
work?
it's a smaller city car rather than being a big SUV or a luxury tour or anything. And I'm sure that most of the people that are buying that car, are buying it for shorter urban journeys rather than driving the length and breadth of China.
Yeah.
Probably. But that's how most of us use our cars.
Yeah.
The point being that this range anxiety thing is, I think, often overblown.
Oh, it's completely overblown.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest hurdle that I think acceptance of electric cars has to overcome at the moment, which is why I think car makers are overdoing it almost, over-delivering, and why I come
in terms
back
of
to that thing
range, in terms of range.
Yeah, and also, but when I come back to that thing about frontal area and CD and stuff, is that because at the moment it's in their interest to absolutely maximise range as best they can, just to try and sell these damn things to people, and just to sell the idea, never mind the physical car. And I get that a Tesla comes out of a very different set of circumstances. People in the US, I think probably on average, I don't know the figures, do greater journeys than people in Europe do in terms of mileage. Makes more sense. And the supercharger network, again, reflecting the fact that Americans might do a long road trip, and it'll be a longer distance than you just physically could do in Britain, and most people probably wouldn't anyway. And that's why Tesla was the sort of first long-range electric car that was viable and out there. But yeah, most people don't drive that far. Our family car, which after 1 year, well, last year, when we got it, it was brand new, and it had sort of 18 miles on it or something. After 1 year, we'd done 5,000 miles in it in a year, and that was mostly urban stuff. I know that's low. I know the average annual mileage is, I think, 10,000 miles now.
Used to be 12.
Yeah, it's come down. But we need the car because of all the sort of places we do go. It's like we're taking the children, the dog and stuff like that, and
I reckon
it's a lot of short journeys rather than fewer big, long journeys.
I reckon this is a cultural thing between China and the Western world. Electric cars in the Western world are replacing a culture where we've had cars for 50, 60, 70, 100 years. And we are used to having cars which will take us 300 miles, fill up the fuel, go. China has only become automotively empowered, for want of a less clumsy phrase, in the last 20 years. There are still people who are just shifting from scooters and bicycles to car ownership.
Yeah, no,
they
that's a
have
good
no
point.
expectation of distance, of range.
Of what a
do
car
they?
should do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so when
that's
it doesn't do a particular thing, there's not that immediate point of comparison.
Yeah,
to
and I think
follow
that
up on.
may be part of the story why China is ready to accept a car. Yeah, well, I don't do that.
And maybe
I think
also,
that's part of
their
it. Yep,
infrastructure is just also,
wonder.
because a lot of their cities are quite new, or certainly newly expanding. But I don't know what the charging infrastructure is like there. But if there's a great uptake of electric cars, and apparently there is, it's sort of absolutely flying there.
Yeah,
maybe
they're
it's just-
supporting it.
It's much easier to manage, because there's this big question of, if you don't have a driveway, then
How do you charge?
up? And you're reliant on the public network. However, if you do have a driveway, and I can't remember the stats on this, someone on Twitter was talking about it, I think it was Robert Llewellyn was talking about it a while ago, that the percentage of UK households that have a driveway or private parking space, I can't remember the percentage, but it's sort of 40-something percent. So almost half.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, we consider all the people there. That's taking out. Everyone lives in flats and stuff like that, because you may have a parking space. But driveways, your house, you can have a charger put in. Well, unless you're creeping around in the middle of the night, your car is parked overnight for a number of hours. Your car can therefore be charged up. And unless you're then habitually going out and driving to Scotland, if you live in Watford or something, then you don't need hundreds of miles of range. If, the same way your phone or your tablet or your e-reader or something, you just stick it on charge overnight because you're sleeping, you don't need it. If you can charge your car overnight, I just don't see that it's really an issue unless you are a massive long-range driver every day or every week. If you are, in fact, just using your car for a normal commute and then you can charge it up while you sleep, well, actually, you're then getting out of having to go and stand in a freezing cold petrol station forecourt, sloshing juice into your car every few days or few weeks or whenever it is, which frankly I find one of the most boring things a human can do.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because there will be the situation where you could imagine somebody who has very similar regular use of a car to you, but who maybe every 3 or 4 months goes to visit relatives in Scotland, and they like to drive because they're taking stuff or whatever, or they're travelling with a relative who prefers to, whatever they want to drive. And so whilst they're doing mostly these little short hops, every now and again, every 3 or 4 months, they need to do this 300 miles one way, 300 miles the other way trip. And that can be a problem for them if they're trying to imagine how they're going to do that in an electric vehicle. And that's where, of course, the range extender type hybrid can be so useful.
Yeah.
Or it just requires a slight change of mindset, because actually, maybe if you make that journey with one charging stop along the way, it's going to add 45 minutes to the journey.
Yeah.
And that's going to inconvenience you. But
is it?
you might decide you might decide that on the one hand you don't mind just sitting there for 45 minutes and watching the scenery and eating a sandwich or having a meal or taking a break. Plus, if you've got all these other benefits, the convenience of never having to go to a gas station, you're always just topping up overnight, maybe you're very happy to deal with that little...
I've got two thoughts on this. Richard, you go first, but I've got two thoughts I'm dying to get out.
I was just going to say that I drove to Manchester and back a couple of months ago with the whole family, and I was supposed to be doing it in an electric car, and then it fell through. We just went in a diesel car. But on the way there, we stopped at some services with the children. You know, my kids are 4 and 1, and they need feeding at regular intervals and then sleeping and things like that, and they're creatures of routine. So we had to stop, wanted to pile some food in their faces, change the baby's nappy, all this kind of stuff. And just out of interest, I thought, I'll see how long we're here for. We were at the services for just over an hour.
Well, yeah.
Now, that's enough to fast charge a lot of electric cars.
Yeah.
Assuming they're not empty. Yeah, so full. And then on the way back we stopped again, and we had to stop because we've got, we
you've got to do that routine again.
And we were there for sort of 45 minutes. So again, it'd be perfect. There was just a natural amount of time we stopped, so we could have perfectly juiced up an electric car at that time.
Similarly, I was going to say that on long journeys you really should stop every 2.5 hours just to make sure you're not stupefying and zoning as you're
Oh, I was
driving.
going to say, I always need a slash by that.
Exactly.
Lord bladder at my age.
Most service station stops are around 20-25 minutes, I think, by the time you've wandered around in the shop looking for the right type of snacky thing and got a coffee and been for a week. 20 minutes. Now, in that time, these days, you could put in enough fuel to electricity, forgive me, to drive for another 2.5 hours until either you have arrived at your destination or you need another wee anyway. So a little 20-minute charge while you're stopping is perfectly reasonable on the motorway. You don't need the full charge thing. But the other idea I had, I know it's silly, but that's what we're here for. How about these people who buy EVs with shorter range than an IC car? For that one trip up to Auntie Florence in Scotland every year, how about you subscribe as part of your package with your electric charge company, Charge Your Car, whoever, they have a series of trucks running up and down the motorway where you can hitch a lift, you can get a tow, perhaps 2 or 3 vehicles. So instead of stopping to recharge, you are towed for an hour. And during the towing, it's turning the wheels, it's charging the battery. Yeah, admittedly, it's coming from a diesel vehicle, but you are reducing your emissions by 50% than going in a petrol car.
Or
It has
if we
some
bring back
potential.
an idea from the 1950s and
Oh, yeah.
before, the car train.
Yes.
Used to have car trains, didn't they? So
Yeah,
you go,
yeah.
okay, yeah, we do. We want to go and see Auntie Marjorie, and she lives in Edinburgh, and we live in Birmingham. And it would be a bit of a stretch in the Nissan Leaf or whatever. We don't want to charge up in services for too long, so we get on the car train. Just drive out to, I don't know, where's the line that goes to Edinburgh, the East Coast Main Line. Just drive out to wherever that's got a little rail terminal thing, onto the car train, off you go. And then you've still got your car at the other end.
Similarly, when you get the cross-channel ferry, why can't you recharge on the ferry? Sea-Link had charging points for electric cars. I know it'd be difficult to position them. You'd have to allocate those electric cars to certain bays.
Or the Eurotunnel.
That wouldn't be that hard.
Because there's electricity down there
they could do
anyway.
that, surely.
Because the
Eurotunnel, yeah.
trains are running electricity, just so have some kind
Yeah.
of way in which some of that goes into the carriages and charges up your train. Or use a massive dynamo on the wheels, although I suppose that might be inefficient.
Slow it down.
Anyway.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, given that all of the energy that you have available to you in that train
Yes.
is coming from those rails or overhead power lines, you're not going to mess about with sticking a dynamo onto the wheels just to reduce the efficiency of getting some electricity out. Just tap it straight from the source.
haven't thought this plan through.
That's there
are ways and means.
This is
There's
good
always
on the
ways
fly
and
thinking.
means. That's the thing. The charging network at the moment in this country, my experience of it when I had my Nissan Leaf, and when I
Agreed.
borrowed electric cars, it's too hit and miss in a way
Agreed.
that, for example, petrol stations aren't.
Yeah.
It's rare you go to a petrol station and all of the pumps are broken. I mean, often you go and some of them are broken. It's a bit irritating, but it's not going to strand you.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to someone today who had a situation where their charging cable got stuck in the charger. The charger wouldn't release it. And they were in an area that didn't have very good phone reception. So they couldn't get the app to work to sort of try and tell it to let it go. So they rang the number on the thing and they went, OK, we'll get a maintenance team out to you. Stay with the car. And he went, well, for how long? Oh, we don't really know. So he managed to make other arrangements, leave the car, because this was a Sunday afternoon, evening. The maintenance team came at 9 o'clock on the Monday morning.
See, here's the
That's
thing.
not good enough.
Here's the thing about the infrastructure, the
It's
recharging.
still kind of early days,
Well,
it is, I think it is.
But Tesla came into this a lot later than anywhere else, and Tesla's bespoke infrastructure for recharging is flawless. Have you done it? You don't have to produce a card. You just pull up with your car. The pump recognises your car because it's got a tag on it. You lift the pump, the car flap opens, you plug it in, you walk away, it's charging. It's simpler than buying petrol. As long as there are independent, rival, competing infrastructure, electrical, public charging points, unless they harmonise and do something as well as Tesla are doing, they're not going to do it. They're just not. But it can be done. I've seen it. I've used it. I've benefited from it. That's my argument.
Well, yeah, I suppose, but how much did Tesla spend to do that network? It must be extraordinary how much they...
Yeah.
Yeah, they have spent...
and they finally rescinded the freebie thing.
Yeah.
It's coming to an end, isn't it, I think, this month?
Yeah. I think if you still buy a Model S, it's still free. But
I think you get a year.
If
you have one of the access codes.
Okay.
But yeah, unilateral free charging
Yeah.
is gone. It's amazing they offered it for as long as they did, really. I mean, it was a very generous offer. The kind of thing you need to do to get people into this stuff, isn't it?
You have absolutely, yes. You have to give it that boost in the earlier stages of adoption. One gets the sense that consumers and ordinary members of the public, rather than petrol heads and car nuts, are getting a lot more comfortable with the idea of electric cars generally, and they've seen them around for a few years now. It depends on where you're living, but certainly if you're living in London, you see chargers are a reasonably familiar sight. Even though they're not being rolled out as quickly as they could be in a lot of boroughs. I know there are various bureaucratic reasons essentially why actually a lot of the stuff isn't being put in as quickly as it could be. But we're sort of reaching the end of the beginning of the electric car era. We're not near maturity by any means yet, but we're out of the very first early stages, and things are just getting a little bit of traction.
Sort of on that note, I accidentally learned something just today. I was researching something else I just need to look up. And again, sort of just stumble into another room of the internet and go, oh, there's something interesting in here. I'll just have a look at that. And it was about, I've forgotten this, the Fiat Panda Electric from the 80s.
Oh, yes.
And you could buy these, not in this country.
Lead acid, was it?
I think so, yeah, they were. They were lead acid batteries. And it had a range of 70-something kilometres. It equates to fewer than 50 miles.
I was going to guess at 50 miles.
It's actually 40-something.
I mean, that does sound inconvenient, particularly in the winter. Can you imagine? Because that'll drop in the winter. That's best case, isn't it? Yeah. In the winter, the light will start flashing when you've done about 20-odd miles, I imagine, on a cold day. in a Fiat Panda. And you just go, that sounds inconvenient.
Yeah.
I know that was 30 years ago, but it sort of feels like, well, we're past that now. Things are only on the up.
We're comfortably into much, much greener grass territory. No question about it.
You know that scene in Jurassic Park where Jeff Goldblum, who's playing the character called Jeff Goldblum, says something about life will find a way, it'll evolve. If you've only got female creatures, a male one will happen.
Life finds a way.
Yeah. I think that's actually happening to electrical car usage right now. And my evidence for it is less than 100 meters away from this house. I live in central London, in Hackney, densely populated. We don't have off-street parking. But a chap who lives on a road adjacent to me has bought a Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. Terrible car, am I not wrong, Richard?
Terrible car.
Yeah. I asked myself, why has he bought a car that you can recharge at home when you can't charge it at home because you don't have off-street parking? And then one day I walked past and saw that the gap between the front of his house and the curbside where he parks his car, there's a tree growing. And what he does, he connects his power cable from his house, drapes it over the tree, and one of the branches carries that cable over the sidewalk, the what do we call it in this country?
Pavement.
Over the pavement, the footpath, and allows the cable to reach to the car without becoming a trip danger or a health hazard. Life will find a way, as Goldblum says, and EVs will find a way too.
I need the address of that guy's tree guy, because I need a cable-bearing tree put outside my house, because when I said that we should talk about electric cars in this show, leading up to the fact that I have just ordered our new electric car.
Which we will discuss in a moment.
Hello, Mr. So-called Vauxhall man, Mr. how you say, Managing Director. Oh, hello. We, Peugeot Tabs, have looked at your, how you say, books, and you have many things that bring us great displeasure. Oh, sorry to hear that. For starters, some of your, how you say, models, they do not make the, as you say, money. So we are going to stop making them. Oh, right. Crikey. Which ones? The Viva? And the, how you say, Adam. Right, okay. I can tell you are shocked by the expression on your long face. I am a little shocked, yes. I knew it. Well, this is the news, mon ami. Deal with it. No, I mean I'm shocked that we still make them. I had no idea. No, and nor did the general public. Huh. I make joking at your expense, stupid Griffin person. Don't forget, you built the 1007. Shut up! And the 607. I don't want to talk to you no more. And the 206cc. You smell of velour, and your logo is a chicken.
Sniff Petrol with Gareth Jones on speed!
Viewers to this show may remember that before the break, Richard announced that he had just ordered a new electric car. A new electric car. What is it, Richard? Well, we know. The trouble is, I'd like to sort of profile you and guess what it is. And we did it earlier, didn't we?
Well, we could give the listeners a chance to guess.
Okay.
You know.
So you have 10 seconds. Knowing Richard...
I don't think that... Well... I'll just tell you, because...
Well, they know you.
Okay,
They know that you hate Tesla.
No,
Well,
I
you
don't
hate it.
Tesla. See, immediately, no. I don't hate Tesla. I would love to have a Tesla, but they're quite expensive, and I have many times looked at the sums, and they just don't add up.
They know that you've had a Nissan
But
Leaf.
does that mean you're buying a cheap electric car?
No, I found a way to get an almost equally expensive electric car a bit cheaper because there was a deal going, as it turned out. An unexpected deal. I think Tesla, because they control their distribution and everything, they just control their list prices and their lease rates and things very tightly, and there ain't really any
Not much wriggle room.
leeway. Yeah.
So considering the fact that you have found a cheaper way of acquiring this as yet unnamed electric car, do you like the way I'm giving the audience a
Yeah,
chance
that's
to
good.
play
That's
along?
good. They've had plenty of time now
Yeah.
to pick. So
That it might imply that because prices are being cut, bargains are there to be had, that the sales record of this car as yet has not achieved what was initially promised. Is that Finn? Is that Finn squeaking? Or is that your nose squeaking?
I
I
think
heard a squeak.
I heard a squeak.
Didn't sound like Finn, though.
I think it was your nose
I
squeaking.
thought it was Zog going...
Yeah, well,
I don't think so.
Play it back, we'll hear it.
Well, yeah,
So, has this car not been the hit perhaps it was projected to be? That's what I'm
No, it's
inferring
the
from this.
opposite of that.
Why? How? What?
All right.
How can you get it cheaper if it's in demand then? I did economics GCSE.
Okay, so anyway, enough. I'll cut to the chase. What I've done is I've ordered a Jaguar
CSE.
I-Pace.
Yeah!
good choice.
And I really wanted one, and not least, I like the look of it ever since it came out. And then I read the early reports, and it all sounded very good. And then I borrowed one the other week, and I had it for a week, and it turns out it's terrific.
And as we were sort of saying earlier, it's another of this class of kind of mini crossover SUV.
Yeah, well, it's a
kind
bit
of
weird,
thing.
though. We'll get
It's
onto that in a minute.
sort of-
But just to go back to Gareth's point, I mean, they're only just delivering the first customer cars. I've ordered it just this month, and I won't get it till April. So it's sold out. So demand is high. I mean, production is not massive. The original rumour I heard was they were going to be making about 15,000 a year. I asked Jag about this, and they went, "Oh no, it's more than that." But I think it's only, from
Only a
what I've
little bit
heard,
more than that.
25,000 maybe.
Right, yeah.
So it's not a lot in the general scheme of things. They're going softly because it's all a bit new. Someone from Jag told me ages ago that their sales projection people were absolutely papping themselves about it because there's no precedent.
They've
could
got
go,
no idea how to predict how many they're going to sell.
Well, you go, okay,
Yeah.
so we've got a new XJ coming out, and the old one sold this much a month, and so we reckon the new one will do a bit more because it's new, and then we'll just, they can sort of extrapolate a bit.
But they've got no reference
yeah.
plane.
So they're probably being conservative.
They're being conservative, yeah,
rather
and they
than-
have to lock this in because
Yeah.
it's being built in Austria by Magna Steyr, so I guess they have to do some kind of contract. Yes, we will take X thousand cars off you. Building cars is really complicated. You've got to order all the right number of bits and things, so you can't
Yes,
just sort of
as
keep
Tesla are finding out.
oscillating around the place and going, no, we'll have 7 tomorrow and then we'll have 1 million the next day, and it just doesn't work like that. So they've hedged, I think, low side. So yeah, if you order one now, you're waiting 6 months for it, which is fine because we have another car on lease at the moment, and that goes back in April, and hopefully the Jag will turn up in April, and if it doesn't, I'll be bloody annoyed. But the reason I think that I found this relatively affordable lease rate on one of these cars, because I wouldn't buy one outright, because first of all they're 70 grand and I haven't got that kind of money lying around, but also they are a bit of tech that's rapidly evolving. I don't think you want to be stuck with that for too long in case something whizzier comes along. However, and consulting a friend of mine in the car trade who knows about these things, I think this is what this lease company has done. They have bet that this car will still be in demand
in sort of 5 years' time.
Well, I think, no, the lease I've signed for it was 2 years. The one they were really pushing, that's the very affordable one, is an 18-month lease, which is a bit weird. You don't see a lot of those. But I think it's because over 18 months, they can say, in 18 months' time, this car will still be worth a significant proportion of its new price.
Yeah.
So
And-
we get
and
money from
you will have paid
You're
more
effectively, I mean, at least
on
it's
the
just a
lease in the
glorified
meantime.
rental, isn't it? You're just renting to use a car, which is fine. I don't mind doing that. It's like, when people go, oh, it's dead money. It's like, oh, no, renting a flat's dead money. Well, no, you need somewhere to live. I mean, food's dead money. You just poo it out again. Oh, shut up. So, yeah, I think practically it's a good thing to do at the moment, is to minimise your risk of getting into a very expensive item that becomes worthless. Because what if the iPace turns out to be the Betamax player of electric cars? I don't think it will, but who knows? So, yeah, the lease company up north would obviously taken a punt on it, backed by a reputable finance house, to offer some deals for a couple of weeks.
So you've got a good deal, and
well, it's about, so I mean, don't be vulgar talk about money, but basically it's about the same as we pay to lease our current diesel Mercedes, and I think we'll probably, hopefully, save a little bit of money on fuel.
It's the I-Pace, which I find confusing. It's an electric car, it should be called the E-Pace.
Yes, but the E-Pace is in fact sort of Evoque with a different hat on.
Yeah, it's the XE size platform, which is smaller than the F, which is a bigger platform. Jaguar have a range.
Oh, I see. Right,
their petrol car is the XE, and then there's the XF is the bigger one.
Sort of set this template where
so
E in the name equals, it's the sort of smallest. So the XE is the smallest saloon, this is the smallest SUV, and then F is the medium size one. And there's rumours there'll be a J Pace to match the XJ. That's the thing. So then I-Pace has to sit outside that, and they've clearly gone, iPhone and iPad and i-infection. There's, it all sounds very high tech. Let's call it that. But yes, you're right. It's confusing, I think, to people who don't work for Jaguar. So, and it is...
What's the range?
Claimed on that new, more punishing test cycle, 298 miles.
Excellent.
Now, I had one for a week, and I drove it like a normal car.
Yeah.
So I drove at normal motorway speeds, when we know what those can be.
Yes.
And I just kept the aircon on all the time, because it was hot when I had it. And I took it into the countryside and I ragged it around, and it really rags around like you wouldn't believe. It's the best driving electric car by a mile I've ever experienced. And I think probably if you are quite heavy-footed and you just treat it like a normal car, honestly, 200 to 250 is more realistic. And I'm going to say that 200, if you just assume it's 200, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
Be interesting, when we get ours, my wife will drive it a lot. She'll use it to commute in. Now, she's a lot less heavy-footed than I am, and a lot less of a sort of push-on e-driver. I think, particularly in urban environments, she will get 250 plus.
We got 300, didn't we?
We did, almost exactly. Now, the I-Pace only has one battery size option, one engine option. There's no... It doesn't do what some electric cars do.
There's no Tesla hierarchy of batteries. You know that Kona actually comes in two capacities. There's a long-range one,
premium,
and then the one where you look at the thing and go, oh, that's like, it's much smaller, isn't it, the battery size?
I like that thing. Obviously, one understands why manufacturers do this and offer the different levels, so you can have a price differential and you can have a cheaper option rather than maybe the full. But I think there is definitely something to be said in the context of the electric car market for just having the one option, because I think that because people do still get a little bit distracted by the range anxiety thing and just what range are you going to get out of it. Well, the press release said this, but this test said that, and this pundit says this. And the fact that you have different versions of the car, different capacities for your battery, as well as being different circumstances under which you might use it, it makes it a little bit harder for people to maybe really trust those.
And it's using terminology that's new. I think people understand horsepower.
Miles per gallon even.
They do. They just get their heads around that. You go, okay, this car does 60 mpg. And I think a lot of people just go, oh, that's quite high, isn't it? They understand that. But if you think about the BMW i3 as a case in point, they've changed the battery capacity on that car during its life, and they express it as amp hours. And the newer, longer range, high capacity one came in. It was the 94 AH. It's just you're looking at it going,
what does this mean?
What does that mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Most batteries they're expressing it in
kilowatt hours.
And so, the terminology is not only new, but it's also sort of slightly opaque. I mean, we're people who pay attention to this stuff because we enjoy it, but normal people don't do that.
They don't know what an amp hour is.
They just want to know. And it's funny, isn't it? I think the range thing is a little bit like, it's an obsession, but it might be misguided because, of course, the range varies on where you drive the car and how you drive the car and how warm or cold it is and all these different things. It's the way that they quote, like, mobile phone battery life in sort of 300 hours of talk time or 20 hours of internet surfing, stuff like that. You sort of go, well, I'm not keeping an eye on how many hours I'm using my phone. But people go, how's the battery? I think batteries make us obsessed with these things, because electric cars, people always go, what's the range? First question. When you go, I've got one of these new phones, people always go, what's the battery like on it? But if you go, well, actually, I can spend 150 hours talking, or I can watch 17 movies, or spend 20 hours on the internet. I go, what are you wrong with you weirdo? If you go, oh yeah, lasts all day, fine.
Yeah.
Next time
That's all
someone...
people want to know. Does it last all day?
Yeah.
I go, oh yeah, look, let's get 2 days out of this before I put it on charge. And they will go, oh wow, that's really good. That's the sort of real life metric, even though actually it could be 2 days of you just not using it.
Yeah.
Well,
somehow it speaks to people more.
And this will become sort of more a part of it, I think, by extrapolation. In a few years' time, when somebody's asking about this electric car, it'll more be like, oh, well, yeah, me and the wife recharge it every weekend and gets us through the week fine.
Yeah.
It'll be that kind of measure of capacity.
I reckon next time somebody asks you what's the range, you say, well, there's a L, there's a GL, Super,
GLX,
Deluxe, GT. Yeah.
Here's how I sold my wife on the I-Pace, because I said this.
Because you've had a lot of practice
at
selling your wife
I've sold
on new,
sold my wife a
not
Defender,
entirely
sold
necessary
my wife a
vehicles.
911. Yeah, it's incredible.
It's going well.
Oh, yeah. We know you're good at this.
Can you have a word with mine?
So I said, look, there's an offer on. Basically, you know what we pay at the moment to have this car? For the same money, when it comes to change, we could have this. And my wife is, in principle, completely down with the idea of an electric car, because she thinks, as I do, that it suits our life. It would suit our life in principle, and also the idea that we're not adding to localised pollution because we live in the city, and it's
and there's a London congestion charge.
Exactly. So there's a lot of
there's a bunch of reasons.
And she finds filling up with fuel as boring as I do, and she's always tricking me into doing it for her. Are you just going out in my car? Yeah, I was going to take your car just because I've need to put some stuff in the boot and stuff. And oh right, actually, while you're out, if you're going up that way, you could just stop at the petrol station, couldn't you? Oh, what? Why? How much is left in it? And she'll go, oh, it's getting quite low, and they'll get in it. It'll be 3 bars. And I go, well, that's not low, but in her world, it is low. Yeah. So anyway, I digress.
It's not low since you've had the low.
I know.
Since you had the light on for 10 miles.
This does worry me, that she has great range anxiety with any car of any fuelling. So I don't know how she's getting on with the electric car. But how I sold it to her, when I said, look, financially, we're sort of the same, but actually we might save some money on filling up, okay? But she went, oh, but then how often am I going to have to plug it in? And I thought, well, so I assume the 200 mile, go on the realistic side, worst case, 200 miles.
Very conservative, safe
out of the I-Pace. She has a 10 mile commute, 20 miles there and back. So I just said, put it this way, you'll be able to drive to and from work for 2 weeks before we'll need to plug it in again. And she just went, oh, right, let's get one then.
Nice.
Because I think in her head, she was thinking, oh, God, like every other night, I'll have to be plugging it in, the charge around the corner or running the cable across the pavement or something. Can't be bothered with that. But yeah, because it was better than I think she was expecting. And actually, it is. It's just every other Sunday night, it'll need plugging in somewhere overnight. Or I'll take it to the fast charger up the road and just stick it on for an hour or so. I mean, that's not massive hardship. We'll go and have a coffee. At least I don't have to stand there in the cold holding onto a handle.
Yeah, that's very
click.
Very,
oh God,
very
it's
manageable.
gone off again. Yeah, it is. It's manageable. And that's the thing. And like I said, we do about 5,000 miles a year in our family car. First of all, we need a car of a certain size because we have children and one child needs a pushchair still, and we have a dog. And so we need a certain amount of room, because otherwise I would have just got a Leaf or something, but it's just not quite big enough to get all our cack in at maximum.
And you
attack.
like a Jag.
The Leaf was my first guess of what you when
now,
you
the
said
thing
you bought a
is,
new car. But
I said this, I wrote about the I-Pace on my website, and I realised as I was writing about it that there's something about the I-Pace which particularly appeals to me, because I do like a Jag, and I used to have a Jag, an XJR, that it's very quiet and very smooth. It's bastard quick. 400 horsepower from 2 motors, one on each axle, and God, it goes when you want to do it. And it's that lovely, smooth, instant torque, and I kept on the tail of a rapidly accelerating Lamborghini Huracan when I borrowed the I-Pace. And I just thought, I like the fact that this guy's looking in the mirror going, what's happening? Why is this happening? I have a supercar! Leave me alone! Yeah, it's a brisk old thing. And so it's quick, it's smooth, it's quiet, it's very comfortable, and it's actually quite sort of avant-garde and quite high-tech. Yeah. And as such, it's the most Jaguarish Jaguar
you've said
for
this
about
before.
40, 50 years.
Yeah, you said Jaguar should be avant-garde. You've said that for years
and they fell into this rut of just reinventing something avant-garde they did in 1968.
With walnut dash. Yeah.
And
does it have a walnut dash?
Well, do you know what? The press car I had was of this revolting spec where it had this kind of grey sort of exterior that could look quite nice in some lights. It's like that sort of almost flat grey that you used to be able to get on Renault Sport Clios. In some lights, it looked beige. It didn't look good. And then it had black wheels. There were black wheels on this press demo, and I don't really like black wheels. And particularly not. This didn't work on this car. And then a bright red leather interior, which I'm not against per se, but with a dark wood inlay on the dashboard, which is an option. It was bloody awful.
Not the best combination.
Because it can look amazing. So the one I've ordered it in this rather snazzy blue.
Is it an electric blue? That wasn't meant to be a pun, it wasn't. I was just thought, is it an electric
It sort
blue?
of is a bit, yeah. I'm sorry, this is a bit clangy because it's sort of showing off, but I was on the point of ordering it and I was like, I can't decide what colour, and I was talking to my wife and I went, look, we could just have it in like white or black or grey or something, and I actually like this blue, and she went, actually I like that blue as well, because I think if you're going to have a sort of futuristic car, you might as well have it in a zingy colour. And she was like, actually, do they do that orange you can get on F-Type? So I was like, whoa, that's my girl. No, they don't, and actually I think that might be a bit much. Anyway, and then I went, hang on a minute, I'm going to ask someone, and I sent a message to Jaguar designer Ian Callum. And went,
Go straight to the top.
hello Ian, I'm going to order an I-Pace. What colour would you like? Like, what's your favourite colour? And he went, well, actually, I like the red, which I don't like. But he said, a lot of the designers in my studio really like the blue. That's their favourite colour. And I was like, that's good enough for me then.
Yep.
Designer's choice. And then he actually went, well, funnily enough, my next company I-Pace will be a blue one. So you know...
Basically, all the best people are driving blue I-Paces.
Blue I-Pace, as
that's where it's
endorsed
at.
by the man who leads their design department.
Shouldn't Ian
Classy
Callum's car have a Ziggy stripe across it as well?
Callum loves Bowie, doesn't
He does love his Bowie.
He had an F-Type SVR with a one-off bright blue interior with sort of a bit, and a stripe on the outside that's not quite a Ziggy stripe, but is a bit. It's a bit Bowie. I saw him at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and he'd done it as a one-off because apparently they couldn't. There was various reasons the supplier couldn't do the blue leather for more than a sort of one-off thing. So. But he said, "It's just my company car." And it's going back in a couple of weeks, and it'll just get sent into the dealer network, and someone will just go
Someone
and buy
will
it.
get a super special.
Yeah, and someone will probably never
interior
realise
car.
they've got this one-off car that, you know, in sort of 30 or 40 years' time, and classic car clubs will be like, oh, the Ian Callum special.
Well, there you go, listeners. If anyone is
Yeah, if you're out
that
there,
car,
you just scour the
jump
dealer
on it.
network, that sort of
Jump
grey
on it.
F-Type.
So, Richard, you've chosen a Jag because you like a Jag.
Well, also because I want an electric car. I really want an electric
Yeah.
car, but I want a certain size of electric car because
Well-
of getting stuff in. But also just that reassurance of a bit of extra range, because we do occasionally go further afield. If I want to go and see, like, my brother lives near Manchester, and that's 200 miles away, and I think, well, you know, particularly at the moment, the M6 is pretty much just a 50 mile an hour average speed zone from Birmingham up to Manchester. Frustrating, but actually playing to an electric car's strengths, because just at that kind of, you'd set the cruise at 50 and just sit there, and it's got
And just have a very relaxing cruise all the way up.
Exactly, and it's like we can't go any faster, you'll get pinched for it. So
enjoy the ride.
You know, I see why you chose a Jag. We turned down the Renault Zoe because
Too small, yeah.
too small, and probably Renault might not get you there every time. No,
actually, I was going to get a Zoe a while ago, and before I had my Leaf, but there were some issues with that. So.
Leaf too small.
Bit too small, yeah.
Hyundai Ioniq too small, or too much like a Prius, not cool enough, bit domestic, bit of a cab driver's car.
Also quite expensive, in fact. Just again, using the time, just now's the time to lease, not buy. They are quite pricey. The ones I looked into, and they all seem to be on 48-month leases, and I sort of don't want to keep a car for that long.
Same reason for the Kona then, which has got
Kona
incredible
is
range.
a bit small, yeah, incredible range, yeah,
Incredible.
but it just looked incredibly small. No, the Ioniq, I don't know actually. My sister-in-law's got an Ioniq in the US, a hybrid one, and she absolutely adores it.
Yeah, tremendous. But equally, you didn't buy a BYD. You've seen those BYD electric cars going around London?
Yeah.
Or you didn't buy a BAIC, what's it called?
The EC series.
EC.
Couldn't find the dealership, no.
Yeah, and the waiting list is huge.
Huge,
I
because
would
of all the
imagine.
Chinese people who want one.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean, what's left, that's the thing. And I sort of thought...
Tesla?
I'd go, too
good.
pricey. Go pure electric as well. I thought, go hard or go home. Because if we have a plug-in hybrid of some sort, I mean, it might work, but... we probably just wouldn't plug it in because we don't have a driveway. I'm going to be forced to plug this thing in.
Audi.
e-tron.
What?
The e-tron. When
Yeah,
can we
what-
buy the e-tron?
Not till next year, don't know
Right.
when. But the Merc, not available
Well,
until
again, the Merc-
2020.
Sorry, I haven't said e-tron correctly. Can I say e-tron correctly?
E-tron.
The French word for turd. It is. It really is.
Yeah,
Look
no,
it up.
we had
It's all-
this.
yeah.
I saw that on Twitter. Yeah. So,
I know, and they haven't backed down from that. So anyway, I mean, obviously it's got a hyphen in it, so it's like someone coming here and go, yes, and you have so electric car. It's called the turd. There's a hyphen in it. Stop laughing. Stop laughing. So yeah, that's the thing. When you break it down, at the moment, cars that you can get. I mean, I'm saying this as someone who's joined a 6-month waiting list,
Yeah.
but cars you can pretty much get
is
now,
a relative term.
to sort of have the combination of qualities that I'm looking for. It's Tesla or I-Pace for now, and the Jag, thanks to this offer that I slide in on, that seems to have stopped now, that even Jag didn't know about, and it's being done ultimately through Jag's finance house.
well, we were talking about this before, and basically it's half as much roughly as you'd have got it.
Yeah,
from,
if you
from
get the
Jaguar.
if you go to their website and do sample quotes, it's this is about half as much.
Was it PSA or was it Citroën who said recently that they're going to make an electric version of every model in their range.
I think pretty much everyone's saying that now, aren't they? But yeah, I think they did, and they just announced a couple of weeks ago the plug-in hybrid versions of the 508 and the 3008. And the 3008 one's got like sort of 300 horsepower or something. It's nuts. It's proper sort of hot hatch, but it's a sort of crossover. Which goes back to your thing.
I-Pace.
Good to have a Peugeot performance hybrid. That sounds pretty good.
Do you know what's funny about the A-Pace? Sorry, I'll stop going on about it for 6 months and then you won't be able to shut me up. But unless it doesn't turn up, in which case...
We'll all be hearing a lot about
You'll be hearing from me, Callum. But the interesting thing about it is I know they're saying it's an SUV and they're very, very much plugging this because I think they want it to be classed as an SUV in the US because it'll help get down their corporate average fuel consumption stats and all this sort of stuff. But I think it's not. I mean, it does sit a little bit high.
I mean, it's crossover.
But it's also got a low roof. Yeah, it's a crossover. And I was trying to... I was like a friend of mine, my mate Connor, who's Irish, came over and he was outside my house. He texted me and went, I'm coming up your street. And then he's not here. And I went outside and it was when I had the I-Pace press car. And he was just outside going, look at that! Me, that's gorgeous! And with his daughter there as well, he's like... Hey, and I was like, what are you doing? He went, that's an amazing car. Yeah, it isn't it? He went, is it an SUV? What is it?
And
I think that's quite an interesting reaction because it is what is it? And it doesn't look like anything else. When you see them out in the wild, because it's got this weirdly long wheelbase and sort of stubby nose, it's a very distinctive looking car. I personally think it looks really good, and I think I got a lot of people talking to me about it when I had it. I mean, you park, you get out and people come over and go, Scott, either what is this? Or, weirdly, a lot of people seem to know what it was and just want to know what it was like. But it looks in and of itself almost, which is, I think, interesting.
When you drive it, Richie, because you've driven the I-Pace, when you drive it, is it like sitting in a coupe where your feet are straight out in front of you? You don't sit upright like an MPV, you sit like a coupe.
Yeah, it's closer to...
Yeah.
I mean, it's the driving position is sort of normal saloon, not SUV high. You can jack it up, but the roof's quite low.
Isn't it funny, though, how many years ago did the original Mercedes-Benz A-Class come out with that revolutionary sandwich floor?
97, I think.
From the word go, they said there's going to be two versions of this car. There will be an electric version, there will be an internal combustion engine, and the platform of this car, you know, one of the advantages of the sandwich floor is it's a perfect place to put your electric drivetrain. And it never happened because they kept falling over. But don't you feel sorry for Mercedes? You know, it was an idea way too ahead of its time. If they still had that platform now, they would probably be rivaling and offering you an electric car that you might want.
Mercedes have recently announced the EQC as their first all-electric vehicle, and I think that's going to sell pretty well. It seems like, you know, whilst they may be a little bit late to the game, you know, they're coming in with a very good product, and, you know, it's not too late to be getting into the electric car business. You know?
No, it's not. It's rather arrive and do it properly. You know, that's sort of almost the way that Apple do. They're not the first people to do smartphones or tablets, but they just kind of went, we'll sort of try and make it work in a more slick way. But yeah, Merc have gone, we'll make it just look like an SUV.
Well, yeah,
albeit with a sort of...
It's really very similar. Again, it's in this kind of, you know, SUV crossover territory.
Audi, I think the e-tron does look like just a really normal SUV. And it's sort of like, I think they're hedging on the fact that people are weirded out by, if you think about sort of the Leaf. I mean,
the BMW, the BMWs have been quite, you know,
super weird,
a bit too funky for some people. I kind of love them, really.
I do.
Police love them now. They all drive them around here. i3s. Police drive i3s. Yeah.
And the fire chief at our local fire station, where you can plug in your electric car, but there's two spots. One of them is often taken by the fire chief in his i3. Damn him.
I like the fact that they're doing it with a bit of flair.
I think there's a lot of choice, and there's going to be even more choice. And it's right. I think there's sort of, if you think about, the Leaf is still a bit quirky looking, and the Kona is a funny thing as well, isn't it? Behind, I put
Kona electric is with its funny front. Yeah.
But then, it's like my wife said, she went, "Why do all electric cars have to look like science nerd cars?" But then it's sort of, if you don't, you can have an e-Golf, which is just a Golf. Yeah. I wonder which way will win out. At the moment, we're in that sort of early adopter thing where a lot of electric cars have to stand out to make the point that you've got something different, and I quite like that.
I'm going to wrap this now, but one final thought on electric cars. You know, we've made leaps and bounds. We've come a huge, long way in terms of electric road cars, and to a similar extent, so have electric racing cars. But I was reading something very briefly this week saying that the next generation Formula E electric car has almost twice the battery capacity of its previous generation car. Now, given that they had to stop halfway through the race to swap cars, Does this mean that the cars that are going to run in the next season will have to run the last 10 laps slowly to make it if they've only got just under double the range of the car?
We just make the races a little bit shorter so they can make the
I wonder
distance.
if they'll do that. They'll have to.
But that's real progress. It's worth
We're
just
getting
thinking about that for a moment. You know, in the last few years, they've doubled capacity of their onboard batteries.
And someone at Jag
Really good.
told me that there are things they've discovered in the Formula E racing that have directly filtered into the road car stuff. So it's not, sort of all marketing. They've learned things about motors and how to cool them and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So the reason that all of the car makers seem to be going into Formula E now, and it's not just for marketing, there's a chance that there's actually some technological sort of back and forth.
With internal combustion engine cars, we've probably just about bled the stone dry in terms of technology filtering down from racing to road cars. I mean, sure, in the last few years, I guess the improved efficiency of diesel combustion...
don't discount petrol combustion as well.
I was reading
It's
about...
amazing how economical cars are now compared to how they were sort of even 30 years ago.
But I'm not sure how much of that has been due to kind of racing-based research rather than...
No.
Whereas in this case, we're seeing the flow of technology and ideas from the racing to the road car. There's probably more room in the electric car area for racing to develop tech.
In the meantime, if I were Honda, I'd be talking to that chap who's been developing infinitely variable timing, opening and closing of valves, which is allegedly going to give us a 7% increase in efficiency from petrol engines. And it's all done using actuators, servo actuators, rather than cams. And it fascinates. So there's still hope for the internal combustion engine. We haven't given up on you yet. You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed, discussing electric cars. He was Zog.
Goodbye.
He was Richard.
Goodbye.
We're going to leave you with a tune, and Steve Allen Jones, who plays keyboards for the On Speed band whenever we play and may yet play again, has been out on tour recently with Spear of Destiny, and so here's a song in the style of Spear of Destiny for On Speed. See ya.
to send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site, follow us on Twitter, or to find out about sponsorship opportunities, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones!